on other missions. One battle the services are helping to fight is the war against drugs.
That's a problem we have to deal with. But we deal with it across the board in a number of spectrums. We deal through education, you deal with treatment, you deal with it in the technology of detection and monitoring, and from a law enforcement side. So there's not a single factor that's going to solve that problem. It's going to take a lot of nations in a lot of parts of the world to solve this problem. It is a big-time problem.
The military is one instrument used by many different agencies to assist in tracking drug runners.
The military people do not do law enforcement type missions. We do detection and monitoring. We do that through various intelligence means by putting platforms, as well as air breathers, surface ships, and other kinds of resources into the region to detect the flow of drugs from a particular country or particular region into the United States.
Some of the Navy's P-3s are doing just that, detecting the drug traffic so law enforcement agencies can head it off and keep the drugs off the streets of America. Air Force Sergeant Ken Davis, Detachment 3, Lodges Field, the Azores, Portugal.
Eastern European countries are open for travel now, and Budapest is one of the most popular destinations. Black market activity is still a problem, though. It's against the law, so if someone approaches you, walk away. Exchange money only at authorized locations. Eastern Europe is a great place to visit, but remember some common sense rules and plan ahead.
Acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, is a concern the military medical community is taking seriously. Education programs continue throughout USAFE that deal with everything from abstinence to safe sex. Staff Sergeant Jim Frost examines what's being done to educate the men and women in the military about the threat of AIDS.
You're infected with HIV.
No sex or safe sex. Two potentially life-saving messages AIDS educators hope to get across to the American military community in Europe. But there is difficulty in getting the word out.
I acknowledge everyone has different beliefs. However, it is important because of the guidelines from the World Health Organization, the Red Cross, and the Centers for Disease Control that we do discuss sexual activity and condom and spermicide use, because it is all we have right now to combat the spread of AIDS today.
People who attend Barbara Yao's classes may be shocked by her candid demonstrations of proper condom use and her frank discussion of other preventive measures, but she knows the importance of her work and what can happen if people don't heed her advice. Barbara's brother died from AIDS, and she wants to help others avoid a similar tragedy.
It is important for each person to understand that though they may not be at risk, they still need to know the information that surrounds prevention, transmission of the disease, and also the progression of the disease itself, so that they can then go out and spread that information to other people.
One of the biggest misconceptions people have about AIDS is that it always happens to the other guy.
They say it couldn't happen to them. They think that it just affects the gay or the homosexual population as opposed to the heterosexual population.
There is no known cure for AIDS, and only a few approved treatments that only slow the progress of the always fatal disease. Military educators hope men and women do what they have to protect themselves, abstain from sex, or practice safe sex. This is Air Force Staff Sergeant Jim Frost reporting.
Nobody seems to pay much attention to the mail as long as they get it and it's on time. But several months ago, when the military notified overseas customers of an address change, a lot of people began paying attention. With a collective groan, many overseas postal customers took the time to notify those back home who needed to know. But a lot of firms and post offices in the States aren't making the transition easy.
For Department of Defense people overseas, mail is a vital link to the United States. From creditors to family to catalog orders, the mail reduces the distance from Europe to the U.S. But now there are problems with that important link. People are being inconvenienced because of a new address system started by the U.S. Postal Service. Some companies in the U.S. aren't using the new system, especially the AE designator and the 4-line address required by the Postal Service. Some companies have notified customers they can't or won't use the new address system. The 7025th Air Postal Squadron serves all USAFE APOs, and its commander suggests taking those letters or any complaints straight to your postmaster.
If they don't go to their local postmaster and sit and stew over the problem or write back and forth with the company, a lot of times they don't get any satisfaction and they can't get the problem corrected. The key to the whole thing is letting the right people know.
The complaints are sent to the United States Postal Service. Then the Postal Service contacts the reluctant companies. The number of companies using the new addresses is increasing, and the number of complaints is decreasing. The address change was the brainchild of the U.S. Postal Service. The military went along with the changes, expecting an improvement in postal service. The deadline imposed by the U.S. Postal Service for the change is still July, despite the mix-ups. Colonel Demmel says he thinks most problems will be ironed out by then, and he says if customers haven't changed their addresses yet, they'd better do so now before their mail slows to a trickle. Sergeant Scott Williams, Ramstein Air Base.
Problems with the new system should be taken to local postmasters. Be sure to include the name of the company and the address change problem. If it's a post office that has a problem with the new address, include the name, location, and zip code of that post office. Aircraft damage caused by birds is a serious and costly problem for the Air Force. Many bases have tried different bird control techniques. RAF Lakenheath in the United Kingdom has been using an effective and unusual method for several years. Tech Sergeant Bonnie Marshall visited the flight line at Lakenheath to find out just how they do it.
These beautiful birds of prey are Lakenheath's solution to the bird problem on the flight line at this United Kingdom base. Bird handler Keith Mutton says that each bird is taught basic falconry hunting techniques, but the birds don't kill their prey.
That's where we diversify from normal falconry methods, whereby we actually train the birds to have a near miss.
The trained birds fly through flocks of birds on the flight line to disperse them and to establish a territory to discourage their return. Most of the birds in the program are specially bred.
Well, basically they're specially trained. It's not just a case of taking any falcon and training it. The ones here are all reared from the control tower at 10 days old, and before they can even open their eyes, they're actually riding around in the little van there, getting used to the jet noise, etc.
The bird handlers at Lakenheath are also breeding barn owls that are reintroduced back to the local area.
Birds like Montgomery here, who is a peregrine falcon, have been helping to control the birds at RAF Lakenheath for the past 8 years. I'm Air Force Tech Sergeant Bonnie Marshall.
Every year, the folks at RAF Chicksands in the United Kingdom invite local senior citizens to an afternoon of tea and coffee and some pumpkin pie. But as Sergeant Clay Cogsdale found out, the annual event is even more exciting than it sounds.
With the help of a motorcycle, some volunteer bobby soxers, and a master of ceremonies resembling Elvis, sort of, the Officers' Wives Club at RAF Chicksands brought the 50s to life for its traditional pie feast. The annual event treats several local senior citizens clubs to an afternoon of pumpkin pie and some American-styled entertainment.
I just think it's really nice that we can entertain the senior citizens and they enjoy coming on, and it gives us a chance to make little things for them and bring a day of happiness to them.
The OWC began organizing the pie feast in August. The result was an entertaining afternoon for the honored guest. Included were some songs and dances from students at Chicksands Elementary School, as well as a dance troupe whose jitterbugging brought the truly young at heart to the dance floor. But how well was all this received?
It brought back younger days.